Hello and welcome back to another episode of You Want to Do What. Today we've got Mark Bushby on, and he's the founder of Armago, as well as being a uni student. Hi, Mark.
Hello, hello.
How
Thanks for
are
having
we
me on.
today? Pleasure, pleasure.
Yeah, no, very well. It's been quite a busy day, but yeah, all very well. How are you doing?
Yes, good mate. It's Tuesday, so we're heading in the right direction. Um, so Mark, do you want to tell everyone a bit about what you do, mate?
Yeah, of course. So I am in my third year at university studying geography with innovation. And alongside my degree, I set up Armago, as you mentioned. And so essentially started that just before I came to university. So I grew up in rural Scotland, and trying to find people to play sport in rural Scotland is no easy task. And that was kind of where the idea originated. And when I came down to university, I can get into a bit more detail further down the line, but essentially started to go and develop around this new idea that I had for linking people up to play sport. And that's where Armago was born. And yeah, 2.5 years down the line, we've got a fantastic team of students here, got some really good mentors. We've raised initial investment as well. And we've launched the app, and we've got about a thousand students on the app at the moment. And I suppose also got a podcast that we do alongside the app. Had some amazing Olympic athletes and all sorts on there as well. So yeah, plenty to keep me busy.
So my first question, Mark, is it sounds like you're a bit of an entrepreneur. Why did you decide to go to university?
That's a good question. I think it like the innovation degree that I do has been really, really good actually, because I did kind of look at it and go, do I really want to go to university? And I was looking at all the different options. I was thinking, geography, economics, and all that. And I definitely knew I wanted to go and set up a business. Hence
Mm,
why I did so just before going to uni. And I think that for me, and I'm glad I did. University is an environment where it's more than just kind of the degree and everything like that. And actually, because I've been quite fortunate, doing the innovation, and actually I'm, quite efficient with the geography side of things, I'm able to, not spend too much time doing the degree, so I can really focus on the business, which is what I care about. But it's interesting. I did speak to Dom McGregor about it. Set up Social Chain, and he said that you know quite a few years ago, probably wouldn't have been the advised thing, but actually, the way that degrees are now, with a lot of it being online and everything like that, it is something that you can do. And I think, particularly as I say, having the innovation, which is fairly built around setting up your own business, it means that I can kind of kill two birds with one stone in that sense.
that's a really interesting point, actually, Mark, because like you say, university has gone online, a lot of it. So have you actually dealt with going to university online and running a business? It's been difficult but doable?
Yeah, I think yeah, no easy challenge. But yeah, as you say, doable. I have to treat my degree in a quite different way to the way most other students treat it. So a lot of my friends from first year that I did geography with will rarely see me in the geography lecture, let alone on the online stuff, because I really do just have to prioritize what's the stuff that actually really needs to be done for me to get this degree. And I think you can get away with doing very little, which sounds quite bad, but I think it's true if you're really careful with your time. And actually, it's definitely been to my advantage having a lot of the stuff online, because I'm able to tap into all the resources that I need when I want to, rather than kind of having to do all these things at set times. So, the way it tends to be is I spend most of my time working on the business, and then around the time of deadlines, I'm able to really go in, pick up all the information I need to write the essay, do the exam, whatever it may be. And yeah, I absolutely think it is definitely possible.
Do you think geography will actually be a career you'll pursue after uni, or do you think you're more likely to spend a bit more time looking at the app and maybe more tech founder routes?
I think there's probably about a 1% chance I'll pursue geography. Yeah, I went into geography kind of with different expectations, I think, to what it is now. I've always been quite interested in the climate change stuff, the ocean plastics, and I think that, yeah, all those interests I've still been able to explore and learn about, and that hasn't necessarily been through my degree. And I don't know what most people do from a geography degree. I think it's quite a mix anyway. Certainly, I don't know anyone else on the degree that's doing the sort of thing that I'm doing. But yeah, no, almost certainly I'll be going more down the startups route. Whether it's growing an Armago, whether it's starting something else, and I've got various other ambitions as well. But I think doing the innovation is a kind of joint degree as such. So we do innovation with all sorts of different degrees. That is becoming more and more what the course is about as you go further through. And so really being able to focus on that is what I absolutely love doing.
So tell us a bit more about Armago. How did it start? How have you developed it, and where are you guys now?
So yeah, started off, as I say, trying to tackle that problem, of trying to link up people to play sport. Haven't had that challenge myself growing up in Scotland. And actually, when I came down to university, I thought that a lot of those challenges would go away. And so I didn't necessarily know if I was going to pursue it further. When I first started, I literally built probably the world's worst Wix website, jumped on my bike, cycled around to a few of the local clubs, tapped on the doors of the managers and said, "This is what I'm doing. Are you interested?" And I think that is how you got to get yourself out there and get going with these sort of things. You just literally got to put yourself out there and go for it. Moving on from that, as I say, came to university, started exploring the challenge here, realizing that there was quite an opportunity for it down here as well. And actually then I went about obviously getting the app developed, and it took quite a while, from going from what was initially a website to then becoming an app, and then actually finding someone who could go and get that developed. I spent a long time going around university students, speaking with other people who would try and do similar, and actually ended up finding someone who I suppose came on as a technical co-founder as such. So we set about together developing Armago, and massive unknown going into the kind of tech world like that. I'd done a couple of years of computer science at school, so knew a little bit about it, but it was ultimately quite a big risk and a bit of a challenge at the time. And so we set about designing and then developing the app. And actually, interestingly enough, I was setting up another business at the same time, which is probably the most stupid thing I've done. I was also setting up a bamboo postcard business with someone else that I was doing. And so, in hindsight, I think it's much better to focus all your energy into one thing. But at the time, I thought that I could do everything that the world had to offer. And so I was trying. And so, unfortunately, lockdown, COVID, all that kind of hit in just when we were kind of, hoping that we might be able to see a clear path through on the development of the app and get it out there and get going with it. A lot of things changed. The team started to kind of grow at that point. A lot of people weren't doing too much other things. I'd already, been speaking with quite a few other people about it. We started doing our marketing and all that sort of stuff. Lockdown was actually a really good opportunity. We set up the podcast then, brought in someone else to do the podcast. We did this, what was called a Run From Home Festival. We basically got live music on Facebook with a couple of DJs as people were doing a 5K. And it was all kind of small little things that were going on that were ultimately built around, building this kind of community. Yeah. Fast forward to August time, and I unfortunately found out that the technical co-founder that I had didn't have such good intentions as I initially thought, and that he was actually more interested in setting up a rival competitor company doing the same thing. Which presents all sorts of challenges when you've piled all your student loans and any kind of cash that I had into it. And so, massive shock. And it was kind of back to square one again. And so went out again, trying to find, by this point, things were quite different because we had a good team of people around me who I could really start to trust on and everything. But, again, went back, I started messaging hundreds of different computer science students. I've messaged people in Stanford, in Oxford.
Wow.
I started, speaking with more people who could advise me. And I interviewed a lot of different students and everything, and got nowhere, unfortunately. And so then I started exploring, people had talked about Fiverr and all these sort of ones for getting apps developed. So started exploring that. And then eventually I went looking at agencies in the UK. I knew it was expensive, but I still didn't want to rule anything out. And I was sort of running low on options, and I knew I just wanted to get out there. And I can remember one particular time actually where I was walking down the street and I called up my dad and I said, look, I'm just going to develop this bloody thing myself. I'm so fed up and I just want to get this out there. And it's frustrating, you know, but it's all part of it. So yeah, ended up stumbling across an agency here in Bristol actually, and they were quite early stage. And so in many ways, they decided to take a bit of a punt on us and we decided to take a bit of a punt on them. They were prepared to do it at low cost. They needed 40% of the payment up front. And so that was my next challenge. Could I, get enough cash to be able to get that under development? And, it was quite last minute. Scraped together the funds, applied for, all sorts of grants. I spent ages applying for anything I could really go for.
Yeah.
I managed to get the cash together. And fast forward to now, got the app launched on iOS and Android. They did a really good job of it. There's delays and all sorts. We launched the app. I should probably explain exactly what the app does at this stage.
Yeah.
So there was two kind of core functions to it. Firstly, in matching up students. So the initial concept had actually been like a Tinder style model, and then what we moved towards was people being able to match up with others based on their location, ability, and availability, and essentially they could filter by different students. And then alongside that, we also started working with university clubs to offer them a kind of club management system so that they'd be able to easily manage their clubs. And the key kind of thing there was that a lot of clubs are moving away from Facebook, finding they won't want to use that anymore. And so we saw a real opportunity there that if we could provide a few core features, then that's a great chance to get these people on board and get people using it so that we could get the matching side of the app going. And so, yeah, we launched the app, got about 1,000 students on board. We partnered with several clubs. And so, this kind of fast forward into September now, we've got several clubs on board who kind of took it on a trial basis. And yeah, I mean, a lot's changing at the moment. I'll get into that, in a bit, but it's certainly been one hell of a ride.
I mean, it sounds. Firstly, I love this. I think it's a brilliant idea. It's a problem that I don't know a solution for, so that ticks one box. But also, I love your enthusiasm for it as well, being at university and doing this. And I think it's really, really cool.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
So what's the process now? How are you doing? You hiring people? What are you looking for, and how's that all going?
So yeah, we've got about 6-7 of us on the team. So 4 of us actually all on the innovation course. To begin with, everyone was doing kind of a lot of different things. I think everyone has kind of slotted themselves and found their position in what they're good at. So we've got Claudia, who's come on incredible amount on the design side of things. You've got Megan on the marketing, who's again starting to get really, really good at that side. Eleanor's been heading up the innovation side. And then I've got someone else who basically does all the recruitment and editing for our podcast. And then we've also got, there's been a few other people that have kind of come in and out at different times. We've got another chap, David, who's essentially looking at launching Armago out into the US. And he's part of I'm trying to remember the name of his college now. Wake Forest, that's it. And he's part of, basically a similar program to the innovation here, but a kind of startup program there for launching out there. So yeah, at the moment, the team is very much what's driving this. No one's been paid out of this yet. It's much more of a longer term project, and we're all working to get this off the ground. And I think that it has been tough, but we've also tried to make it really, really fun and make it a great kind of startup environment to be part of, and to be part of something a lot bigger. So yeah, where we're at the moment, we all work remotely at different times. So I can remember in lockdown, I think there was a point where there was people on the Zoom call from 6 different countries. That was quite amazing.
Yeah.
But we've kind of learned to work in both environments, and we've got several really good mentors. I've got a mentor who spent about 10 years out in Silicon Valley. I've got we've got our angel investor as well. So I think one of the most powerful things now is that kind of network and the other entrepreneurs and everything like that. That if we are looking to do something, it's, you know, very much, I know the sort of people that I can kind of speak to for different things. And, you know, if we're looking to get advice, you know, and again, know the right sort of people. But yeah, I mean, the platform now, it's yeah, I'd say it's a bit of a pivotal moment at the moment, but we're actually really honing in on the club side of the app at the moment. We want to really get that stuff working well, and we're actually slightly coming back to the drawing board on some of the stuff. But yeah, I mean, I've a lot of us still have you know, a year and a half, or not quite. It's probably more like 15 months now left of university, and we're getting a lot of support from the innovation as well. So I think, you know, I want to use that time really well to get the business to a really good stage, so that, you know, once I graduate, you know, hopefully that's us up and going and we can really start to grow things.
Wow. So if somebody's listening to this, that maybe they're at university or maybe they've just left and they're thinking, you know, I've got this business idea, I really want to start. Have you got any advice for them about actually getting started, which I think is always the toughest part?
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, there's quite a few things. I think firstly, just going for it. Like, you know, when I started, I literally just, as I said, made the worst website and then started cycling around clubs. And I think that, you know, there's a bit of a misconception that setting up a business requires a lot more things. But actually, you know, the best thing to do is literally just to take that first step and go for it. And you'll just learn, you know, just through doing it, you will learn. I think the other thing though that I've learned a lot from the innovation is just around making sure that you're not just kind of going off some idea and assumption that you've got, because, you know, I've spent a lot of time and effort where I think we probably could have cut corners a lot quicker, just because we hadn't, you know, validated things, we hadn't tested things at an early enough stage. So I think at the very early stage, yes, you can go out there and speak to people and say, what do you think of this idea? But, you know, that only goes so far, because a lot of people, you know, don't want to offend, and they'll say, yeah, I absolutely love your idea, it's really cool, sort of thing. But when it comes down to it, you know, are people going to pay for it? Are people going to actually get on board with it? And I think there's other kind of more, perhaps a bit more creative ways in which you can put it out there, you know, whether it's creating a mock-up of the actual thing, saying, okay, do you want to buy this? You know, we'll have it available for you in 3 months' time, and actually see if you can, you know, get people paying for it. So I think there's a few kind of things there that can prevent you from, you know, falling down traps of spending a lot of time and effort where you don't need to. And then I think the other thing is people. You know, everyone always says people are the, you know, heart and soul of it, and it's, you know, it's so true. And I think finding other people who share that same passion. I'm really careful with people that I bring on the team now, like whether they actually, you know, they're doing it for the right reasons. Obviously had some pretty negative experiences from that, so I learned my lesson the hard way on that. But I think, yeah, just finding people that are passionate about it, and that you can actually work well with, because at the end of the day, you know, most of the successful startups are, you know, done by, you know, more than one person, and if you can share that load, I think it certainly help a lot.
What has been some of the biggest positives and achievements you feel you've taken away from this process so far?
There's been a huge number of positives, and even if the business flopped tomorrow, which fingers crossed it won't, you know, I would be, you know, so happy with how things have come and what I've learned from it. I think, yeah, just one, the sort of people that you meet, you know, all the connections, whether it's lawyers, whether it's people in the financial world, whether it's people who are also setting up amazing businesses. You know, I think that's absolutely amazing. I think also the kind of challenges that you go through, it's very unique, totally different to doing a university degree, and it kind of puts into perspective writing an essay, which most of the time I find pretty easy after having spent hours and hours trying to put together business proposals or applications for funding or whatever it may be. I think you know, if you find something that you can be really passionate about, you'll not only work really hard on it, but also learn a whole lot of things that you never thought you'd learn. You know, I wouldn't have considered myself much of a reader or podcast listener or whatever it was, but because I'm passionate about, you know, doing this, it's actually led me into, you know, reading around it, you know, finding out a lot of other things, you know, whether it's the psychology behind some of the marketing things, or whether it's, you know, how best to communicate on the podcast or whatever it may be. just doing these things, finding something that you can be really passionate about leads you to learn a hell of a lot more. So yeah, it's tough and all that, but as I say, even if the whole thing was a complete cock up and it didn't go anywhere, I'd still be absolutely delighted with what I've learned and the sort of people that I've met and had the privilege of working alongside.
So I'm going to ask you to think a bit ahead into the future now. Say, you're going to go and do your first proper hire. What kind of things would you be looking for in that hire, personality wise, maybe, that would help you pick them over somebody else, maybe?
Ooh, I think they've got to have drive, and they've got to have self-drive. It's not necessarily about what skills and all that they've got. I think, a perfectly good example is the guy who's been doing the podcast. He's just got, unlimited drive and commitment to actually succeed in what he's trying to do. He gets constant rejections and no's from people for podcasts, but he will just keep going and going and going. And I think, that is one of the big things, particularly in a smaller startup where ultimately there's going to be a lot of things that go wrong, and people need to have that drive, that, and be prepared that not everything is going to go to plan. All the people that I've got involved in the team also have kind of other things that they're doing. And that is, a really good sign to me, because it shows that they're the sort of people that are, will get up off the backside and go and do stuff. Megan's got her own podcast. She does her own kind of stuff on Instagram. Claudia, does all sorts of other design work, which really, boosts her skills in that, and also does all sorts of stuff with her music. Eleanor was doing other innovation work, doing internship stuff, and Angus has now got a job doing stuff with Scotland Rugby. So I think those people that are able to get up there and go and do stuff that's not just the kind of standard things that people might do is a really good sign, because I know that if they've got that kind of get up and go attitude and they're prepared to take on things themselves, it means that I can sort of give work over to them, and I know that they'll go and do a good job with it generally.
Would you sort of started all this knowing everything you know now?
Yes, although I certainly would have probably taken a few different paths to get to where we are now. But absolutely, without a doubt, and hopefully I'll be able to say the same thing in a couple of years' time, because I've no doubt we've got many a challenge ahead of us. But absolutely, I think I think I was always going to go and do something like this, and it's been amazing.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and having a chat, Mark. I've loved hearing about Armago and your story so far. I think it's a brilliant idea, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. Where can people find you, find your app, and everything you're up to?
So LinkedIn, generally, I don't like to call myself much for a LinkedIner, but I suppose I have a bit of a LinkedIner, or Instagram, or the app is on the App Store, so you can search it Armago on Apple and Android, and then you can look at our website as well, which is armago.io.
And what about your podcast?
That's the Armago podcast, and again, that's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mark.
No worries at all. Thank you very much.